During every political season in recent years, Black churches are targeted by conservative groups to organize against reproductive rights issues, such as abortion, in an effort to soften support for progressive candidates. What are organizations like yours doing to combat misinformation around this topic when it comes to the Black community?
Yeah, absolutely. You're right that misinformation and disinformation are just, absolute scourges online, especially. And we've seen that doesn't stay online. Unfortunately, a lot of disinformation, misinformation with the vaccines for COVID prevented a lot of our community from getting the kind of protection that the vaccines provided, which led to increased numbers of folks in our communities dying and also to long COVID. And we also see, frankly, how misinformation online led to the big lie of the 2020 election that led to the insurrection here in DC. So misinformation, disinformation is a critical crisis for us to address. And UV is working to address that through specifically the lane of misogyny and combating misogyny or sexism online. We are the founder and anchor for the Women's Disinformation Project. It's a national coalition that works to hold tech platforms accountable for their blind eye to the dangers of misinformation, disinformation, as well as to help educate people about how to recognize and fact check information online and fact check information online and recognize disinformation or misinformation and help inoculate people against the ability for it to influence them or inform some of their opinions. And we focus on the misogyny lane because we know that so much disinformation online is targeted at women, especially women of color. And we know that leads oftentimes to offline violence against women and women of color in particular. There are so many women of color political leaders, for example, who had to deal with relentless hate attacks online that then leads to real security threats offline for them and the attendant cost and fear and chilling effect that has for them to continue to live public lives. Um, so that connects a lot to how we also work with leaders in the faith community about how to both, again, recognize misinformation and how to also combat it. And to specifically name the ways in which racism and misogyny work together to either affirm biases or to kind of, create new biases in people online as well. So we do a lot of research. During the confirmation battle for soon to be Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, we did a lot of work, especially within faith communities, to help give faith leaders the information they needed to fight back against disinformation online relating to the judge's record, for example, to speak out against, whatever random thing was popping off online against her that had no basis in reality or truth. And we'll continue that work when it comes to abortion rights. We know that there's a lot of fear online that the leaked draft opinion, again, it's just a draft. Abortion is still legal, but the anti-abortion movement has used that to sow fear and to make people feel like they can't get the care they need as a result. So pushing back against that. There's a lot of medical misinformation when it comes to self-managed abortion. But self-managed abortion can be very, very safe and it's very effective, and is an increasing route of care for many people in our communities. And so educating people about that and combating disinformation and holding tech platforms accountable for allowing what is medical misinformation, like lies about medication abortion, for example, to flourish online, and doing the work, therefore, to connect that to the folks who have power in the communities, like Black faith leaders and Black churches, to help disseminate that information and reaffirm it and reinforce it offline as well. And I would say that, we know that in our community, in the Black church, faith leaders have a huge amount of respect and authority. And always making sure that whatever you're sharing with your congregation, with your community is factually accurate is hugely important. We know that we saw it actually in Justice Alito's opinion, the racist and just historically inaccurate claims about Black genocide and all the other, frankly, BS in his opinion. So we got to call that out, and we invite faith leaders, especially, to call out why that's BS. Why all this is an attempt to control Black and Brown bodies and our reproduction, which is a long and disgusting history in this country, and why we cannot and absolutely will not go back to that. And I think Black faith leaders have a big role in playing in that, and making sure that they're providing accurate information to their communities as we go into a season where disinformation about abortion, about any number of things, voting rights, LGBTQ care, is going to be rife and only continuing to grow.